He was the master of the One Ring, and the greatest threat Middle-earth has ever known. But how did Sauron become the embodiment of evil? How did he become the Dark Lord of Mordor? This is what we will endeavour to answer, or we'll at least try to learn as much as we can from Tolkien's writings. This is the story of Sauron's rise to power and the choices that led to his ultimate downfall. Hello friends, and welcome to Middle-earth Unveiled. I do appreciate you spending your time with me. Sauron's story begins not in Middle-earth, but in Valinor, the Blessed Realm. Born as Myron, he was a Maia, a spirit of great power and wisdom who served Aulë, the Valar of crafting and creation. In his youth, he was called the Admirable, for he was fair and wise, and his works were of great skill and beauty. But even in these early days, there was a shadow in his heart, a desire to control and dominate, to shape the world according to his own vision. Initially, Myron's talents were used for good. He helped Aulë shape the world, crafting wonders that even the elves would later marvel at. But as time went on, Myron grew restless. He began to see the world not as something to nurture, but as something to control. And it was this desire that made him vulnerable to the influence of Morgoth, the first Dark Lord. This is how Tolkien describes him in the Silmarillion. In the beginning, Sauron was not evil. Indeed, in the days of his youth, he was called Myron the Admirable, for he was fair and wise, and his works were of great skill and beauty. But he was drawn to the service of Melkor, and his love of order and perfection became twisted into a desire for dominion and control. When Tolkien describes Myron as someone so admirable that it becomes his moniker, it makes it a poignant reminder of how far he fell from his original purpose as a craftsman under Aulë. His love of order and perfection, once noble, became twisted into a lust for power, and it was this corruption that set him on the path to becoming the Dark Lord of Mordor. Morgoth saw in Myron a kindred spirit, a being who shared his desire for dominion. Slowly, subtly, he began to corrupt Myron, twisting his love of order into a lust for power. Myron became Morgoth's most trusted lieutenant, a master of deception and cruelty. He took on a new name, Sauron the Abhorred, a true fall from grace. It's hard not to see the stark transformation. You see, during the First Age, Sauron played a key role in Morgoth's wars. He was a brilliant strategist and a fearsome warrior, but his true strength lay in his ability to manipulate and corrupt. For example, Sauron captured the island fortress of Minas Tirith, not to be confused with Gondor's later city of the same name, by using his cunning to weaken its defenses. He also corrupted the hearts of men, such as the Easterlings, turning them against their allies and sowing discord among the free peoples. Hear this. Some might argue that Sauron was merely a pawn in Morgoth's schemes, but the truth is more complex. Sauron was not just a servant, he was a student. He learned from Morgoth's cruelty and ambition, and in time, he would surpass his master in cunning and subtlety. As Tolkien himself wrote, Sauron was greater in cunning, in wisdom, and in the capacity for evil. Yet, while Sauron was greater in cunning, his inability to comprehend humility would ultimately become his undoing. His pride blinded him to the resilience and courage of those who opposed him, a flaw that would prove fatal in the end. Hint: hobbits. After Morgoth's defeat and banishment to the Void, Sauron faced a choice. For a brief moment, he considered repentance. This caught me off guard. Imagine a being as powerful as Sauron standing at a crossroads, redemption in one direction, dominion in the other. Tolkien's words capture this fleeting moment perfectly. In the days of the Great Battle and the overthrow of Morgoth, Sauron repented in fear, and he abased himself before Eönwë, the herald of Manwë, and sued for pardon. But he would not return to Armen for judgment, and he fled and hid himself in Middle-earth. This moment is crucial to understanding Sauron's character. He had the chance to turn away from darkness, but he chose power over redemption. It's a tragic reminder that evil often begins with good intentions, and that the path to darkness is paved with pride and fear. In the Second Age, Sauron emerged as Annatar, the Lord of Gifts. Disguised as a benevolent teacher, he offered the elves of Eregion the knowledge they craved. But his true goal was far darker. With Sauron's guidance, the elves forged the Rings of Power, beautiful and terrible creations that would shape the fate of Middle-earth. But in secret, Sauron crafted the One Ring, a master ring to control all others. When he put it on, the elves realized his treachery, and war broke out. Sauron's armies swept across Middle-earth, and for a time, it seemed that nothing could stop him. Let's read it from the Silmarillion. And Sauron forged in secret the One Ring, the ruling ring, that contained the powers of all the others, and controlled them, so that its wearer could see the thoughts of all those that used the lesser rings, could govern all that they did, and in the end, could utterly enslave them. This act of deception was his masterpiece. The One Ring became the source of his power and his greatest vulnerability. If you want to learn more, we made a couple of videos about the Rings of Power. You could check those out as well. Sauron's reign of terror came to an end at the hands of the last alliance of elves and men. In a climactic battle, Isildur cut the One Ring from Sauron's hand, stripping him of his power. But this Dark Lord of Mordor was not truly defeated. The ring survived, and with it, his spirit endured. Over the centuries, he slowly built and regained his strength. He also rebuilt Barad-dûr, gathered his armies, and prepared to conquer Middle-earth once more. But his greatest weakness was his own arrogance. He could not imagine that anyone would resist the temptation of the ring or have the courage to destroy it. And so, when Frodo and Sam set out on their quest, Sauron's downfall was sealed. Sauron's story is a cautionary tale about the dangers of pride and the corrupting influence of power. It's also a reminder that evil often begins with good intentions. Myron's desire for order and perfection was not inherently evil, but when twisted by Morgoth's influence, it became something far darker. In Sauron, we see the tragic consequences of losing sight of what truly matters. Not control, but compassion. Not power, but humility. In Greek tragedy, hubris is the fatal flaw that leads to a character's downfall. Macbeth's hubris lies in his belief that he can defy fate and hold on to his ill-gotten power. Sauron's hubris is even greater. He believes he can dominate all of Middle-earth, bending its peoples and its very fabric to his will. But in both cases, their pride blinds them to the resilience of those who oppose them. For Macbeth, it's Macduff and the forces of justice. For Sauron, it's the free peoples of Middle-earth, especially the hobbits, whom he dismisses as insignificant. Yet, for all his power and cunning, Sauron made one fatal miscalculation. He could not comprehend the resilience of the free peoples of Middle-earth, especially the hobbits. In his arrogance, he dismissed them as insignificant. But it was these small, unassuming creatures who would ultimately bring about his end. This blindness to the strength of others is what ultimately seals his fate. He cannot imagine that anyone would resist the temptation of the ring or have the courage to destroy it. In his arrogance, he overlooks the very beings who bring about his downfall. We can finally ask again, how did Sauron become the Dark Lord of Mordor? It was a combination of his innate desire for control, Morgoth's corrupting influence, and his own pride and arrogance. From his origins as Mairon the Admirable to his reign of terror as the Dark Lord, Sauron's story is a testament to the dangers of unchecked ambition and the resilience of those who stand against tyranny. In the end, it was his inability to understand humility and the strength of others that sealed his fate. What do you think was his greatest mistake? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, even subscribe to the channel. It really helps a lot. Thanks for watching, and until next time, may your journey through Middle-earth be filled with wonder. See you soon.